Hey there, good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday to you. Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with this week's stocks to watch for trading and investing. But we're going to start with the markets and the sectors first. Give you some thoughts that I have going through my head here, and then we'll head right into the list of stocks to watch. I put on the blog that it could be an interesting week ahead. We do have earnings season kicking off. We've got a pretty good blend of companies that are reporting from different sectors. We've got Netflix, we've got PayPal, we've got Johnson and Johnson, we've got Honeywell. So we've got some good names in a breadth of industries that could paint the picture for us in the markets in the short term. But I want to really kind of focus on what we've done technically over this last couple of weeks. Now, the pro members over at Alpha Wolf Trading, for the last couple of weeks, we were had the caution flags out because of the fact that we were at a couple of areas of potential price resistance. We had a couple of double top looking formations. There was a lot of stuff out there that I was somewhat concerned about. So we were paying attention: TDIX, UVXY, TZA, SPXS, the short bias stuff. And now, on Friday, after a brutal week, we broke through sliced through the 200-day moving average in a couple of the indexes like the IBB, the IWM, the IYT, QQQ. We actually broke through the 200-day S&P 500 through the 200-day. That's concerning, right? SMH broke through the 200-day. There really just wasn't a lot of places to hide, right? The one of the areas that we saw this happen early was the home builders, right? They have been just continually heading lower, and not seeing a whole lot of stuff out there, especially in a rising interest rate environment that makes you want to go jump back into home builders. Financials, even though J.P. Morgan reported good numbers on Friday, financials really haven't been able to find any footing. So, consumer discretionary pulling back. That actually was kind of a safety trade for a little bit there. You can see that it wasn't nearly, or consumer staples, I'm sorry, consumer staples pulled back a bit, but not nearly as beaten up as some of these other spaces because of the fact that it is considered a more of a safety type trade. But building, and materials, rough space to be in. Consumer discretionary broke below the 200-day, and retail also. There really, like I said, wasn't a lot of places to hide. So Friday, we did have a bit of a bounce, and we are trying to reclaim the 200-day, like in the IBB, for example. We're right here at the 200-day. We're trying to get back above it. The QQQ, right? We did manage to break back above the 200-day. The SPY, we're testing the 200-day. Here's kind of what I could see. I mean, we're going to look at something in a minute, and this is something I had focused on with the pro members, indicating that we were looking at some kind of a snapback bounce day. Now, I hate gap up days. Those are extremely challenging days when everything after a big sell-off gaps up into potential resistance. Those can be very choppy, erratic days. What we need to see over the next week or so, and I think this earnings week will kind of help determine what happens. But we need to see if we get some follow through on this bounce. But I got to tell you, even if we do get a bounce, and keep this in mind, and it lasts for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and we kind of grind our way back, or if we get some kind of a V-shaped bounce, I'm not convinced that we haven't done some real technical damage, and that we won't go back and retest these lows that we are putting in. I can tell you what I wished would have happened was that we actually sold off into Friday, gapped down on Monday, and then had a nice reversal in the intraday market. And that, I think, would have been, I think that I would have liked to have seen that more than what we saw on Friday, which is the bounce. We may see the markets bounce their way back. We may see some nice rips, but I would still tend to be very cautious in this market. We've got the midterms, we've got the China tariff stuff going on, and we do have some signs out there that home sales are slowing. A lot of people can't even afford to buy a home because of the prices out there. So there are some things to be somewhat concerned about. I saw Ford announcing maybe some layoffs and just some interesting things that are happening where maybe, even though everything looks to be going fantastic in our economy, things could be changing. Now, if Dennis Gartman comes out and he's a full-blown bear and he's shorting everything, then you need to go long, okay? I think I said that last week, but he is my indicator for major moves within the market. Anyway, all right, let's just get. So that's my take there. We still need to be cautious. Okay, I think there's going to be some trading opportunities. I think there are some great companies that are getting to levels that are very attractive for long-term investments. Are you going to be able to find the exact bottom? Look, probably not, but there are still companies out there that you're going to want to own in any environment, and that's how I believe. I truly believe that. So this is an exciting time. I like it when the markets are pulling back because it does create some opportunities, and of course there'll be some day trading opportunities as well. So. All right, let's head into this list of stocks to watch. So IMMY is one that I did have on my radar for a while. Drug manufacturer, big pop on Friday. Now, I did not see any news on this, but it closed nearly at the high of the day, right near the $3 holla. I love those round number rolls. This could be interesting on a pullback, say a red to green, maybe a pullback to 265, 275 or so. Look for that to be your entry. Got a little bit of volume on Friday, 448,000 shares. It's got a very small float, 19 million shares in the float. Now, what I like about the stock is that it does have, you're above the 200-day. You just closed above the 50-day. You've got a golden cross back here. And, it's got an interesting look. If the biotechs or the J&J reports good numbers, maybe we get some follow through in this move. Now this could be a day trading opportunity, high risk swing, lotto type deal, right? So if you get it on a pullback, even ideally where it would really be interesting to me is a pullback to about 250, right? You get a red to green, you got to pull back to 250, take it there, you put your stop below 225, and you're looking to go back and take out that $3 holla, maybe get up here into the 330 area or so, take some off there. And then if you want to hold a few shares as lottos to see if you get maybe a 3 or 4 day run out of this thing, then worth keeping an eye on IMMY for a trade opportunity, short-term trade opportunity. MMNFF, MedMen. Small, I don't know if this is small float. Actually, I tried to find the float, couldn't find it. Nice move on Friday. 7.3 million shares trading hands. Flat top breakout on the daily. Right now, this is a cannabis play, and maybe it gets some follow through. Like I said, I wish I knew what the float was because it could be. I don't know if this thing has a huge float or what, but. I think it's worth keeping an eye on. 17th, Canada, cannabis, right? Big deal. You're going to see lots of headlines, likely to see some volatility in the space. Got a flat top breakout going on here. Pull back into the $5.10, $5 area. Maybe this is interesting for a day trading opportunity or a high risk swing, right? Depending on what the cannabis sector, the space is doing. But, this could be a sell the news event. We've had a huge run into this event, and it could be a sell the news event. So you got to be. We'll find out this week how the market's going to react to that in that space, but worth definitely having on the radar. AQMS. Now, there's been some short articles put out on this one. I watched a video this weekend. They're making these lead ingots, pretty interesting. They just did an offering priced at $2.10. They had the press release on Friday. It got a little bit of a pop, flirting with the three test and potential roll. The offering priced at $2.10. Look, this could be a red to green day trade. I'm not real comfortable with this management team or the company itself. It's a little sketchy, but doesn't mean you can't trade it. You just trade it size appropriate, right? So AQMS, interesting pop on Friday. Maybe it gets a red to green, a pullback into the 270 area or 250 area could be interesting to just take a little dip a toe, right? 24.9 million shares in the float, fairly small float. Worth watching for a day trading opportunity there. MRMD, another cannabis play that had a really nice base on the daily, broke out and actually flagged and popped again. It's pulled back on some lower volume, got a little bit of a pop on Friday. Another cannabis play that could potentially go test, and let me see if this is all-time high. So this is one that's in blue sky territory. A high-risk play, right? Another high-risk cannabis play, but if cannabis sector is on fire, this one could be one to keep an eye on for a little short-term trading opportunity. QTNT, this is one that I've been watching actually for quite a while. It's had some insider buying. 645, 10% owner, 450,000 shares. Had a 22,000 shares insider buy between 387, 428. It's been, kind of consolidating, drifting lower, not on huge volume, but stochastic starting to curl up. Got a little bit of a pop on Friday. Actually, it pierced below the 200-day moving average, looking for maybe a red to green here. Pull back to say 650 or so, 650, 635, somewhere in that area. Maybe get an entry there. Look for it to go test the $7 holla, possibly take that out. Come test the 750 area. I would take some off at 7 and 750. Maybe hold some to see if you can break through that trend line with conviction. But this has only got 32 million shares in the float. Definitely worth keeping an eye on this one for a potential trading opportunity, maybe even a high risk swing. CVM, biotech, pulled right back to an area of potential price support. Now, this area of 325, let's call it, was a big area to try and get through, and we wound up popping through it, holding above it, consolidating, and then popped a little bit, and we pulled back here. But it's got an interesting look on the setup, interesting setup on the daily, and looking for it to take out 22, looking for it to take out 22. Yeah, that would be fantastic if it took it out 22. Sorry, I was watching. You guys caught me. I was looking at the pregame Cleveland Browns. I was actually watching that as I was talking, so kind of screwed me up. All right, CVM. I'm looking for it to take out this trend line. Actually, it's only got 22 million shares in the float, small float. Maybe a pullback to $3 or 270, somewhere in that area could be an interesting spot to take it for a little bounce trade. I actually think the 325, 310, $3 area could be an interesting area of potential support for a bounce. Day trading opportunity. I don't know if they have anything coming up as far as a catalyst. You probably want to go to Biopharm Catalyst and check that out. See if they've got anything coming up. But it's got a pretty interesting looking setup for a trade. Crone, another marijuana name that actually is kind of held up pretty well right here in the 50-day moving average. You got the stochastic starting to curl up. Maybe we get a pop and a break back over $10. Likely going to have some resistance in the $11 area. Could take that out though. Very, very potential. Very potential. That's terrible. terrible. You can tell I'm looking at football stuff. Potentially a break up to 13. That's a pretty nice little move there on CRON. Just another marijuana name to keep an eye on. Bison. So I have been watching the China names, and look, they were on last week's list. They're on this week's list because they're getting very interesting to me. They're at levels of potential price support. They were down this week, but they actually started to bounce on Thursday. Got a little follow through on Friday. Talk that Trump and President Xi are going to meet in November. We get some confirmation on that, or we get some kind of positive announcements from potential tariff, the China tariff war settling down a bit. That could be good for some of these beaten up China names. So Bison is one that I really, really like quite a bit. Now there are things that are concerning. 50-day is almost about ready to cross below the 200-day, which would be the death cross, right? So that is a little bit concerning. These would be, I'm looking really for a short-term trades on these, not really, at least on Bison, looking for a short-term trade. I'm thinking we can get back up into where that 200-day moving average is. Likely have some resistance at the $45 area first, but looking at Bison for a short-term swing. FLDM, I like the setup on this daily here. Came right down to the $7 holla and found support and bounced. And actually, that probably was the spot to take it. Was $6.97, $7. Pulled right back, bounced off the 100 EMA. But now, looking at a potential trend line break, if we can take that out, I think we go test the 850. We've got a beautiful cup and handle formation on the daily. Definitely worth keeping an eye on this bad boy. Hold on one second. All right, sorry about that. Had a little bit of a phone call there, and let's see, where was I? So FLDM, I like the daily. I'm looking for an 8 roll. Got a big cup with handle on the daily here. Pretty hot looking setup. Stochastic starting to curl up. MACD Histo looking like it's about to go positive. It's only got 15.5 million shares in the float. Traded 255,000 shares on Friday. Worth keeping an eye on this one for a break over 8. Ruby. Insider buying, CEO 342 in August, 100,000 shares. This pulled back. I was watching this Friday. I almost jumped in it on Friday. I didn't pull the trigger, but it did have a nice little reversal candle here on the daily. It had pulled back, and then throughout the rest of the day, it just kind of grinded higher. It is more of a swing for me. I would be more interested or inclined to take it at $3 or $2.90 or in the $2.70, $2.80 area. I would love it to pull back to the 200-day at about $2.66 and buy it nearly $1 better than where the CEO bought it, right? As a more of a swing or long-term hold consideration. I do like what the company has been doing lately. And this is more of a swing or long-term hold consideration, but I could also take it just for a day trade if it got some volume and took out this little short-term trend line here. So keeping an eye on Ruby. It's been on my radar for quite a while. For the penny players out there, look, I will trade anything, pennies as well. NAVB has a pretty interesting look here on the daily, and I'm not sure if they have an event coming up this week. Now, it's not a thin stock. It's got about 156 million shares in the float, but it broke over this longer term trend line, reclaimed the 50-day. You've got the 50-day, which is starting to curl up. And we're hanging out right here at the 200-day moving average. Closed above it on Friday. It's got an interesting formation here. Potential day trading opportunity or a really high risk swing, being that it is a penny and it is a bio, but it has an interesting setup and it's on the radar. on a pullback to say 20 cents or so, I might take a stab for a little high risk swing on NAVB. CVSI, another cannabis play, flirting with the 5 roll, right? Got a little bit of volume on Friday. This thing had an amazing run. It's actually been holding this 50-day really, really well. If the cannabis space is hot, this could be one to keep an eye on. Look for a pullback, say red to green, maybe a pullback to 450 or so. Even if pullback to $4 would be really nice to take it for a little entry there. May not get that much of a pullback. Maybe we look for a pullback into say 460 or so. See if that holds the support. But I like CVSI as another cannabis play. Netflix reports next week. It actually had a little bit of a reversal on Friday. It pierced below the 200-day. Now look, if these guys disappoint and give poor guidance, and we flush below the 200-day, that is going to put some pressure on the NASDAQ, right? That is going to put some pressure on tech. So could be a very interesting week for Netflix if these guys wind up crushing it and we break back above the 50-day. We could be heading back up towards that 400 test. So 378 million shares in the float. It's a thick stock. I just wanted to point it out because of the fact that they have earnings and it's at a very interesting spot right here at the 200-day. CGC was on, I think it was Mad Money on Friday. CEO, these are the guys that got $4 billion from Constellation Brands. It's been holding up extremely well right here at the $49, $50 holla. There's a good possibility we could see this break out of this formation this week. Maybe we take out $50, but definitely worth keeping an eye on CGC as I think more of a swing or long-term hold consideration. It has had a huge move, but it also has a lot of money. I think a third of their capital in cash. I mean, they have a lot of dough. So worth keeping an eye on CGC. EYPT got halted on Friday after the close. Great looking setup on the daily. Not sure what's going on there, but this one could be in play. It's only got 45.8 million shares in the float. Great looking setup on the daily. See what the news is. See what this thing does. Maybe they got approval or something like that. But don't chase this thing. Let's see how it plays out. It's definitely worth having on the radar. Could be an intraday setup. Derm, huge gap on the daily here. It really has been basing for quite a long time. Had a little bit of a breakout, got up to $13, pulled back to 11, found some support in that area, bounced a little bit on Friday. Maybe look for some follow through and a little flag break on DERM. Day trading opportunity, high risk swing, 33.6 million shares in the float. IQ, same as Bison, right? IQ actually, if you look at what IQ did last week, in all that carnage, it really held up pretty well, right? I mean, it held up really, really well. And then we got a little bit of a pop on Friday. We're testing the $26 holler. We're breaking over this trend line. I'm looking for this thing to go up and test the 50-day moving average, maybe potentially take that out. I like the look of IQ quite a bit, and I consider this one more of a swing or long-term hold consideration in IQ. All right, let me keep going here. INSY, it's pulling back to an area of potential price support here at, basically 850 or so. There's an area of price support. Looking for maybe a little trend line break. Take out the $9 holla. Come back up and test somewhere around 10. Maybe even go back up and retest that 1150 area. But pretty good looking setup there on INSY. And I believe they may be a cannabis play as well. let's see. Next one on the list, PYX, another cannabis name. And I'm sorry if I'm, hitting you with too many cannabis names, but it's going to be a big week, and these things could be in play. Citron put a $65 price target on these guys. Thinks they're legit. If the cannabis space is in fuego, this has only got 8.3 million shares in the float. So it could get a little wild, a little crazy, right? Maybe look for a pullback to 41 or so, see if that holds support for a bounce. Or maybe we consolidate a couple more days and then break out again. But this is a tiny floater. If it gets some real volume, could be worth trying to find an intraday setup, or maybe even taking a higher risk swing. Small. Gamer. Full disclosure, I did start a position. I've been talking about this ETF for the last couple of weeks. Activision came out with Call of Duty. I got to tell you, I played this Call of Duty Black Ops this weekend. I'm addicted. I am so addicted to this game. It's amazing. The graphics are fantastic. So much fun. And I'm pretty horrible at it right now. I was much better at Call of Duty World War II. But, I'll get there. It's a fun game. My buddy, I've been getting calls. Hey man, how is it? Should I get it? I think the gaming space is in a great space to start dipping the toe. Activision had a big pop. Gamer started to move, and I actually will be looking if Gamer comes back and tests into this $42 area. Or even goes lower, comes down to the $40 area, I will be adding. I think the gaming companies are going to have a huge holiday season. Turtle Beach had a nice pop last week. I look for that to continue. But Gamer is another way to play all of the games. I mean, you got Red Dead 2 coming out. You got EA Sports, Battlefield will be coming out. A lot of people, a lot of gamers looking forward to that Battlefield. Not buying Black Ops, waiting for Battlefield. So I think it's going to be a huge season for the gaming companies. And even though this does kind of have a head and shoulders look about it, I still like the space and getting involved. So I'd be looking to actually add to Gamer. Huya, another China name that throughout the week, held up pretty well through the carnage, right? And had a nice little pop on Friday. I'm looking for a red to green. I'm looking for potential continuation in Huya. GLW, here's more of a slow roll type play. I love GLW. It was consolidating, it broke out, broke out again. And now we're getting a pullback, and we're getting a potential gap fill. Now, this is more of a long-term hold consideration. Pulling back could test the 200-day. I think on a gap fill to 29.87, this is worth buying a few shares, sticking it in your portfolio, and holding on to it for the next however many years in your IRA. It's not. I'm not looking at this as a short-term trade, right? It's a big, thick stock, but it's getting to a very interesting area as it pulls back to potentially test that 200-day moving average. Another one, Disney, right? You got to look at Disney. I mean, it's pulling back to an area of potential support. This also could be coming down to test the 200-day, and I think at 105 or 103 would be a fantastic spot to be able to get Disney. And this is more of a long-term hold as well, right? This is something, a big, thick stock. You put it in your IRA and just let it go. If the markets really do roll over, I mean, could it come back all the way back down to 95? That's possible, right? But at that, with that opportunity, I would absolutely be looking to add. Last one, IPI. So agricultural input. I mean, they're not. It's definitely not a hot space right now, but it kind of looks like it's basing a bit. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there was some insider buying within this area. And I'm kind of keeping a close eye on this. I think maybe look for a trend line break, go back up, test the $4 holla, maybe take that out, go test 430 or so. maybe a short-term day trading or short-term swing trade opportunity in IPI. I like the look of it. And like I said, there was some insider buying. I know in the 3 and change range. It might have been lower, but kind of looking at it as it sits on this longer term trend line. I mean, we do have a death cross, which I'm not crazy about. You got the 50-day breaking below the 200-day, but it's in an interesting spot, worth at least having on the radar. And like I said, more of a swing for me. All right, so one thing I do want to point out real quick is the T2107 and T2106. So, we had some extreme fear out there this week, and these are, this one is the percentage of stocks above the 200-day moving average. And when we get down into the under 20 or lower, that is typically a sign that things are getting a bit overdone, and maybe we look to get, to start picking up some stuff that's been beaten up, right? So this is sitting at actually an area where it's found some support in the past and then bounce. Where it really gets compelling is when we get below 20 and you get into the single digits, right? The teens and the single digits, that's where we can find some real support and bounce, right? So 15, 16 area. So maybe if we see some more weakness next week, we look for those levels to see if we've got some support, right? So T2108, right, is below 20. It's the same thing. You get down into the 20s. This is the amount of stocks below the 40-day moving average, and we're in the teens, right? Now, we've had some extremes where we've gotten down, into the single digits, right? 6, 4, 4.5. Right, 2016 that happened, 2011, but look at the significant bounce that we have seen once we get to those levels, right? So we get down into the single digits. I mean, things are going to look terrible, they're going to feel terrible, but there's going to be some real opportunity out there, and I don't think that this time will be any different, right? So if we get down to the 5 and the 6 area, you got some stocks out there that you really like, but you're just scared. You know what? Hold your nose and dip your toe, and hopefully and ride out the storm, and you're going to be rewarded. That's truly my belief. All right, that's it. Hey, if you like what I do here, consider becoming a member over at Alpha Wolf Trading for only $197 a year. No hidden upcharges, anything like that, right? $197 a year. Join a great group of people. I've got people that like to trade options. I've got guys that like to trade penny stocks. We've got a good group of people. So come check us out. Got a guy that likes to do options. So come check us out. And that's it. Have a fantastic weekend. Good luck trading next week. Don't panic. Don't freak out. Always have a plan. Know your risk reward. And good luck. I'll see you all next week.